Hey, do you struggle to stay positive in the midst of disappointments? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about a story that helps me find hope when things feel a little hopeless. You see, as a pastor, I am bombarded with constant disappointments. I'm disappointed that my talk wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. I'm disappointed that not as many people came to this event as I wanted. And so when I'm feeling disappointed, there's a story out of the Gospel of Mark that brings me some courage and some hope. Let me share that with you. Well, it starts with a man named Jairus. And Jairus had not just a disappointment, but it really should be considered a tragedy. You see, his daughter was 12 years old and she was suffering and she was about to die. He heard that Jesus was in town and he ran off to find him. And he talked Jesus into coming back to his house to heal his daughter. And so by this point, his hopes were pretty high. He had heard all the stories about Jesus healing people, and he knew that Jesus was his only hope. And Jesus was making his way to his daughter. Well, on the way to his house, he gets distracted by a woman who is suffering. Well, while Jesus is healing this woman, Jairus hears news that his daughter had just died. And he is crushed. Well, while the news is being shared to Jairus, Jesus turns around and he says, "Don't be afraid, just believe." Now, personally, I hear that and I think it's a little strange because I would think Jesus isn't being very compassionate right now. Shouldn't he say things like, "I'm sorry for your loss"? Well, whatever was going on in Jesus' mind, that was enough for Jairus. Jairus believed Jesus and they both made it to his house anyways. They went to the house and a funeral had already started. They kicked everyone out just except for a few people. Jesus turned to the girl and he said, "Get up." And the girl got up. And so not only was she healed, but she was resurrected. And everyone was amazed. And Jesus turns to somebody and says, "Hey, she's hungry. Go get that girl a hamburger." And I just find this story so amazing. Jairus thought the best thing that could happen to him is a healing, but instead he gets to witness a resurrection. And I'll tell you, this story is so encouraging. There are three truths I pull out of this story that encourage me. One is that disappointment creates. See, we know that disappointment destroys, but how many times do we recognize the opportunities that are created by disappointments? You see, today, June of 2020, our world has faced a lot of disappointments. But out of these disappointments, I have seen so many people create opportunities to show compassion, to show courage, to show kindness. It's incredible to see the opportunities that are created by our disappointment. The second truth is that God controls. You see, in the story, God is using the number 12 to show that he controls. God likes the number 12. It helps show that he's in control. So there were 12 tribes of Israel, and there were 12 apostles. Well, here in this story, the girl is 12 years old, and the woman had been suffering for 12 years. It's as if God is shouting in the midst of our chaos, in the midst of us feeling like we're out of control, God is saying, "I'm still in control." He is still on his throne, and when it feels like chaos has taken over, God hasn't left you yet. He is still in control. And the third truth is this, is that Jesus comforts. Jesus comforts. Remember what Jesus said to Jairus when he heard the bad news? He said, "Don't fear, just believe." Well, here's what I think happened. I think when Jairus heard the news that Jesus was in town and he was there with his wife, I bet he felt pretty torn. Like, do I go to Jesus because he's our only hope, or do I stay here because I have to be with my family? And I imagine him looking to his wife, and his wife, with tears in her eyes, works up a smile and says, Don't fear, just believe." And I wonder if it was those words that gave Jairus the hope and the courage to go out on a limb to find Jesus. No matter what the circumstances were, Jesus knew the exact words that Jairus needed to hear. And whatever circumstance you find yourself in, no matter how much despair you may be going through, Jesus knows what you need, and He is present to comfort you. Right where you're at, I encourage you to take a moment and imagine, what is Jesus saying to me right now?
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you found this helpful, if you could like and subscribe and then comment what you think Jesus is telling you today.